So today, what we are basically here to talk about is the transactional process for our students, and just get a little bit more of an understanding of what our new and continuing students go through. Any questions regarding financial aid, student accounts, the registrar's office, and see how much we can help out with on the admissions end. Uh, so what I want to do today is just kind of cover some basic necessities um, throughout the transactional period. So I want to introduce our faculty fellow, discuss student status, some financial options, talk about financial aid, student accounts, the registrar's office, and give you some helpful tools, and then be able to answer any questions. So we are fortunate enough to have a faculty fellow this year that is helping on a couple different aspects of the DGC on the DGCE side. Um, Kathy Wickham currently works as a faculty in the food and nutrition department. She is the program coordinator and advisor to the undergraduate certificate program in excellence in school nutrition through the John Stalker Institute. And I know that she is on the call today. So welcome, Kathy. And I'm very excited to be able to work really closely with you throughout this upcoming year. But basically, the faculty fellow is a split role. There's a portion that is focused on new students and as a new student liaison. So basically, what Kathy is going to be able to do is help bridge the gap between new students from the time that students deposit to the time that they actually sit in class. So she can help with registration questions, accessing My Framingham, getting everybody, getting the students in connected to their advisors or the coordinators, and really help the incoming new graduate and post-bac students through that process. She's also a faculty liaison, assisting Marilyn and Elena on a couple of different projects that they're working on. One big thing is the DGCE roadmap, and which is our strategic plan. So we didn't want to come up with a strategic plan without the university coming up with their strategic plan yet, or announcing that. But so we kind of developed a roadmap for this year, and Kathy has been really instrumental in providing faculty feedback, kind of like giving that faculty voice on, there's things that we talk about in DGCE that many people don't know about, or there's acronyms that we use and processes that kind of come straightforward with us, but maybe not to others at the university. So it has been really helpful to have that point of view, to be able to kind of move the roadmap forward. So when we look at student status, there's always questions about full-time and part-time status, but also what is a matriculated student, what is a non-matriculated student? And this is just a kind of a really good brief overview. So full-time at the graduate level is 2 courses. We changed that, I believe, 2 years ago. And the biggest part was really due to our international student population and our veteran population. In order to maintain full-time status, plus work and job functions, to be able to receive the full benefits that especially our veteran students, we felt that it would be more comparable to reduce the full-time status to 2. So our working professionals can be able to still consider themselves full-time, but also not being bombarded by or overwhelmed by taking 3 or more classes. At the undergraduate level, many that teach in the day division is 3 or more courses as a undergraduate student. Um, when we talk about financial aid eligibility, the federal government says says that when uh, we talk about graduate student aid, it's up to the university on whatever we decide on full-time status or part-time status. So since we changed our full-time down to 2 courses, financial aid eligibility is now for a part-time student can be just taking 1 course and they can be financial aid eligible. When we talk matriculated students, and this is sometimes you may see if you advise in a post-bac program or if you advise in a program with undergraduate deficiency courses or certificate programs, technically matriculated students will be any student in a degree or post-bac program that are taking graduate or post-bac level courses. And matriculated students are financial aid eligible with that minimum of 1 graduate course towards their program. And that's the biggest thing that we need to really understand is that if students are taking all undergraduate deficiency courses, they don't qualify for aid. They actually will be changed. Their status will have to be changed. If they are taking 1 course in the graduate program towards their degree, then they'll be able to be qualified for aid and then be able to finance those undergraduate courses and be considered to be a graduate student receiving the max amount of federal aid. When we look at non-matriculated students, these are just our casual course takers, students that just want to take 1 course here and there. There are certificate students. And then our students that maybe have stopped out but didn't apply for readmission, or they didn't successfully go through the leave of absence process, or they applied for leave of absence, for example, for this fall, but are not planning to come back in the spring and then coming back in the fall of next year. Those students will be considered to be administratively withdrawn from the university if they don't extend their leave of absence. And if they don't do that, when they come back to the university and they can just register for a class, they're going to go in as a non-matriculated student. And then there's a lot of back and forth with the registrar's office, financial aid, my office to try and get them back into their program. So they can either apply for federal aid, but also be able to see those courses in degree works. Sometimes you may see students that have a lot of courses in degree works that have been completed, but you notice that they had taken 1 course either prior to matriculation or post-matriculation, and they were considered to be non-matriculated. Those courses won't go into their degree works because it's not associated with their degree or their record. So that's the biggest thing, kind of thing with us on our side when we look at students applying for readmission, or those students that are, not considered to be in a program just yet. So again, non-matriculated students are not eligible for financial aid, so they can't apply and they can't get any federal aid or loans. So on the DGCE side, we do offer a couple of different opportunities for financial options. One option is a graduate assistant position. We typically will have anywhere from 3 to 5 positions annually. And those positions are for students that, want to work. It's kind of like federal work study almost. They work about 16 to 18 hours per week. They can be in departments across the university. So it's not specifically within DGCE, but They can be in the health center. They can be in the registrar's office. They could be like I had a grad assistant about 3 or 4 years ago. The healthcare administration program had a grad assistant doing their social media a couple years ago. So there's wherever there's a need, we try and find those assistantships. When students are in, accepted into the assistantship program. It's for the fall and spring only. And they receive two $2,500 stipends, so one in the fall, one in the spring. And then they receive four DGC course vouchers. Those vouchers are only for DGCE courses. So for example, Suzanne, you're like the first person right on my Zoom. So for students that are in the food and nutrition program that are taking undergraduate deficiency courses, those vouchers don't qualify for those for those courses. But once they get into the grad level courses, the vouchers would qualify. So really, technically, if you're looking at it, it's $5,000. It's 4 free courses towards in their degree program, which is really not a bad bad assistant or a bad compensation for assistants. We also started this year a scholarship fund through DGCE. We were able to award two scholarships to new students. And then we were able to award 3 scholarships to continuing students. And those scholarships were $1,000 each. There was an application process that we communicated out with to our new students and our current students. There's criteria that they had to meet. They had to write a letter of why, how is this going to help them, impact them in their studies, but also we looked at grades, we looked at, GPA, professional experience. On the new student side, we actually set the criteria of a maximum of 3 years of professional experience. So we are really gearing this scholarship towards those new students coming out of their undergraduate program right into a master's degree, or they had taken a gap year. And they're coming back for their master's degree. When we look at the future of the scholarship program, I believe between the new students and continuing students, we had over 80 applications for the scholarships. Everybody wants some free money. So we are looking to increase the amount of scholarships that are awarded every fall semester moving forward. But we're also looking to possibly, kind of revamp the graduate assistant position, and we may reduce the amount of positions each year, but then increase the scholarships. So I'm just looking at the chat. So when we're looking, and this is a great, Susan, thank you for asking that. Registration opens on the 4th. So I'm thinking that the courses will be listed hopefully sometime next week, and then just a notation. So it's November 4th with registration being open for next semester. So now here's the kind of like the nitty gritty about financial aid. Any student that is applying for federal aid needs to fill out the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. They will enter our school code. Once they fill out the FAFSA and complete it and sign it, the federal government gets a record of it, and then they send us a copy of it. So typically that process between the time of submission to the time of the university getting that sometimes can be anywhere from 3 to 5 days. So if a student says, I applied for financial aid, I filled out my FAFSA, and classes start tomorrow, we're not going to get their FAFSA until probably midweek that following week. When we look at financial aid for graduate students and for postbac students. There are institutional scholarships, the Dean scholarships. We also have some scholarships that are offered through alumni affairs, and those are typically program specific. And if, as coordinators and advisors to our grad programs, if you have alums that would love to donate into a scholarship fund for your students, by all means, forward them on to Eric's office and he'll get that going. But those are really typically the institutional scholarships that are offered through DGCE. At the graduate level, it's only federal student loans. So there are no more grants or scholarships or anything like that through the federal government. They qualified for all of that during their undergraduate program. For graduate students, the max that students can receive in federal student loans is $20,500 per academic year. And the actual academic year to the federal government is on the fiscal year. So it starts July 1st and ends on June 30th. So those students that are taking summer classes and they apply for aid, they can actually double dip between the two different academic years. PBTL students, so our postbac students, are a little bit different on that end when it comes to the amount of federal aid that they can receive. So the federal government has a criteria that determine dependency status. And that's the list of questions on the right-hand side. So, are you born before January 1st of 2001? Yes or no? Are you married? Do you have children? Are you a veteran? There's a series of questions. So if you answer yes to any of these, you're going to be considered to be independent. If you answer no to these questions, you could possibly be considered to be a dependent student. And if you are under the age of 24 or not married or have a child, you're considered to be a bachelor's degree holding dependent student, which typically means that the students that are applying for aid need to use their parents' federal tax information as well, just like they did for their undergraduate program. If they are considered to be independent, they can qualify for up to $12,500 per academic year. And that's, again, based off of the dependency status. There's also private loans through, multiple different bank lenders that, students can take out. So again, financial aid on our end, minimum of one graduate course towards their program. It's all student loans. And this, there's, some wishy-washy back and forth between grad and PBTL in terms of the actual amounts that they can receive. When we look at student accounts, as a regional public institution, I know that we don't have a lot of funding towards financial resources at the graduate level specifically. So unfortunately with us, we do have, the financial aid if they get any outside scholarships or whatnot, but 9 times out of 10, our students are paying out of pocket. There is a student accounts checklist that students can utilize. Basically, it's confirming that they've registered for class, they've set up a payment plan, they've logged into their SharePoint and whatnot. But when we look at payment plans, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult when I look at new students coming in and we look at the registration period. I know a lot of times where I'll send out non-registered reports to all the advisors and coordinators. And the reason being is that if students are going on to at least a 4 or 5 month payment plan, those payment plans start in the summer. So I know that some students don't typically register until, after orientation or, the middle of August. But if they are going if they're going to set up a payment plan, they have to set it up prior to July 1st or August 1st for fall, December 1st or January 1st for spring, and prior to May 1st for the summer term. So if a student registers for classes mid, let's say August, and they want to do a payment plan that is a 5-month payment plan, they actually will have to pay July and August's payment when they set up the payment plan. The same thing with the 4-month, they would have to they would have to pay their August payment when they go to set up their payment plan. Typically, at the midpoint of August, the student accounts office will look at those students that have $1,000 balance or larger. And if they don't have financial aid in process, or if they don't have a scholarship in process or in communication with the university, they actually do drop the students from their classes. There is an AR hold put on their account, and they're not eligible to re-register for the classes until they have set up their payment plan or their financial aid or anything like that. The day before classes begin, student accounts does the same thing for DGC students. They will look at balances for $1,000 or higher. And if the students haven't paid their bill in full, or if they don't have things set up, they will actually withdraw them from their classes. And I'm working with student accounts not to do that day before classes begin drop. But it's been something that kind of lights the fire under the students, where they go into Canvas one day and they're registered and they start looking at the syllabus, and then the next day they're not in Canvas anymore. So it's it does go into panic mode with some of these students. But just as how our process has been set up for now. Again, I am working with Laura to see if we can kind of reduce one of those drops. The student accounts office also handles the health insurance waiver. Any student that is taking classes at a full-time basis in Massachusetts needs to provide information on health insurance. So if they don't have health insurance, they will be required and billed for the university health insurance, which is about like $3,500 for the year. If they have health insurance and are not electing to go into the university's health insurance, they are required to submit the health insurance waiver. Happy to say that I did speak with Laura last week regarding a different project, but this came up in that conversation, and she said that they are working with their third-party vendor that does the waivers to be more automated and automatic. So if a student goes in and registers for classes today, by tonight they can go in and do that waiver. Sometimes it has taken 48 to 72 hours for the system to update. And this is where we find a lot of the times where students are being dropped for non-payment because they have a balance of $3,500 for health insurance that they haven't waived yet, but they still have that balance on their account. So we're hopeful that this new process with the student accounts office and their vendor that they use will go smoothly, and we won't have to worry about that in the coming semesters. So when we look at the registrar's office and what they do, they hold many hats. But the the main points for us is registration periods. We look at registration for spring in November. Summer registration typically comes out end of February, beginning of March. And then the same thing with fall is usually April 1st, like around that first week of April. When students log into their SharePoint, they click on the registrar's office screen. This is what they actually see. They see, where they can get their enrollment verification. They can apply for graduation. They can request an academic transcript, or go into a series of different links where they can register for courses. They can see all the different forms. They can log into their degree works, et cetera. So when we look at the registrar's office, they are very transactional when it comes to student requirements. But their SharePoint, if you have any time to kind of just like cruise around on the registrar's office SharePoint, they have a lot of different information for students, and it's a really helpful resource. So what I'll do at the end of this presentation, obviously I'll send the recording, but I'll also send a PDF document of how to register. So there's step-by-step instructions that we send out to students. And then there's also a link to FATV, which is a financial aid TV. It's kind of like best practices, helpful tools that students can go in. They can, if they have questions about how to fill out the FAFSA or whatever, there's videos on that. So there's two different resources that you can send to students if your advisees are asking about financial aid or student accounts or how to register or anything like that. They can go through that. So really that's, a lot of information in 30 minutes being thrown at you. I do want to open it up to questions, but I want to let you know that next training will be on November 20th. It's going to be entitled Intrusive Advising. And that's going to be with the Accelerate the Future cohort coordinators and advisors. They really developed a model of intrusive advising where they're being more proactive on their advising and getting to know students a little bit more. So I'm going to stop my screen and I will go back, and then what I'll do is I will stop recording.